Sister Susan was my 6th grade homeroom and religion teacher, and one year, it must have been near the end of a grading period, she asked us the rhetorical question, how can I grade you on your religion? How can I grade you on your religion? I thought it was a good question, and I thought the answer was simple. We either know the stuff or we don't. But Sister Susan continued. She said, how do I know and how can I grade what's happening in your heart? She still gives us grades at the end of the semester. But those grades were just surface-level indicators of the quality of our relationship with Jesus. So let me ask you this. How would you grade the quality of your relationship with Jesus? There's a common denominator that we can look to judge the quality of all of our relationships, both with God and with others. The common denominator is this: communication. How freely are you able to share your thoughts, feelings, and desires with God as well as the people you care about? There are so many parallels between our relationship with God and our relationship with others. Maybe at one point in some of your relationships, you've seen a Cold War between people. And a Cold War is sort of when there's a breakdown in the relationship, and that breakdown pushes the people apart. Maybe they're not open hostilities, but there are triggers that are there that are just waiting to be pulled. Or maybe there's a sort of mutual agreement that there are some topics that are off limits and you're just not going to talk about. For any number of reasons, these barriers necessarily mean that you're not going to have the happiness and the peace that God wants for you. And these are especially painful when they exist between people who should be close, like between spouses, or parents and children, or siblings, or other close family members and friends. We'll talk about healing these relations another time, but suffice it to say for right now that we're all broken. And since we're all broken, we need to extend that same grace and mercy to others that we want for ourselves. The point is this: your heart has to be open for communication to flow. How freely would you say you were able to share your thoughts and your feelings and your wants with God? In fact, this is the question that the disciples ask Jesus in today's gospel. They say to Jesus, "Lord, teach us to pray." And what they're really asking for is the disciples want to enjoy that same relationship with the Father that Jesus has, being able to speak freely and naturally. And Jesus begins by teaching them words that we know very well, the words of the Lord's Prayer. Now, Sister Susan could probably give us a grade on how well we memorized the words of the Lord's Prayer, but she could not in fact give us a grade on how well we actually prayed them. Because saying a prayer could be simple recitation, but actually praying means that you're directing your words to God. In fact, that's the definition of prayer. Quite simply put, prayer is the uplifting of the mind and the heart to God. We're not going to go line by line through the Lord's Prayer, but I encourage you this week to take it and go line by line, phrase by phrase, and think about what each of those words and each of those petitions mean. We'll have another piece of that at the end of Mass. But for instance, think of it like this. When you pray, "Give us this day our daily bread," what are you asking for? Sure, you're asking for the food that you need to live, but you're also asking for all of the other necessities that you need for life, both physical and spiritual. One time I was talking to an African bishop, and he told me that when his priests and people pray this line, they're very often literally asking for their next meal. I doubt for you food insecurity is your biggest worry, but I am sure that there are important things that you need to ask God for. A few days ago, I was praying beside someone's bed at the hospital, and when we came to this line, "Give us this day our daily bread," it was quite clear to me what he and his family was praying for. Simply to be better. For you, maybe daily bread is that thing which is causing you the most anxiety and worry right now. The next thing that Jesus does in the gospel is he invites the disciples to imagine that they're going to a friend at an inconvenient hour asking for bread. But when they go, the friend says, "This isn't a good time. I don't want to be bothered right now." But then Jesus says, if you keep knocking and if you keep asking, finally the friend will give you what you need, if only to shut you up. Or as Jesus says, because of persistence. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. It isn't always easy for us to get through to people, but you gotta keep trying. Because as long as you do, there's a chance that you will in fact get through to them. As an example of persistence, we can look at Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison tried 1,000 different ways, according to lore, to invent the light bulb before it finally worked. Imagine if he gave up on the 999th time. Well, maybe we'd be sitting here in the dark. When faced with challenges, especially challenges with other people, very often we feel like quitting. But Jesus encourages us to persist. And persistence is that firm continuance on a course of action in spite of difficulties and opposition. I saw a cartoon of two miners recently. They were mining for gold, and one miner had just given up and was walking back, but the irony was, if he only swung his axe a few more times, he would have been at the gold. And the other miner was further behind, but he was still digging. With God, persistence shows trust and faithfulness. With others, your persistence shows patience and an open heart. So with prayer, is it worth trying? Well, here's what Jesus says. Ask, and you will receive. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds. And to the one who knocks, the door will be opened. How is that for a sure bet? Because prayer proves that you have the engagement of your heart in your relationship with God. With prayer, you will always be able to find yourself on the right path. And without prayer, you'll very often find yourself on the wrong path. I don't remember the grade that Sister Susan gave me in that 6th grade religion class. And I don't know how you would grade your relationship with Jesus right now. But I know this. There is no reason why it can't be an A.